Hi, welcome to the Health and Pharma Supply Chain Summit. I'm Eric Kulisch, Air Cargo and Trade Editor at FreightWaves. Everyone's been focused, as you all know, on the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines. It's been a focus of the entire world, trying to stop the pandemic and the economic fallout that's hit the globe. And we want to find out about some of the logistics implications of all that and how the logistics is being implemented with the distribution of the vaccine. So we've asked Wolfgang Lehmacher to join us. He's the former head of supply chain and transport industries at the World Economic Forum. And he's a founding member of the Center of Excellence for Global Emerging Supply Chain Technologies, launched by Riefnacht, Kuehne+Nagel, and SGI Innovate in Singapore. So welcome to FreightWaves Health and Pharma Supply Chain Summit, Wolfgang.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, before we get into the COVID vaccine logistics, can you briefly describe, I'm kind of intrigued by what your Center of Excellence for Global Emerging Supply Chain Technologies does. I'm familiar with Kuehne+Nagel, but not the other parties.
So Riefnacht is, in fact, an investment fund and supported by Kuehne+Nagel and Temasek. And so this fund is looking into deep tech, into the newest, the most advanced, but also most promising in the short and midterm technologies that could be about visibility, can be about e-commerce, it can be about fintech, all what is needed to drive supply chains in the 21st century. And I'm on the think tank of the fund, and there we are discussing the newest technologies, guiding the parties, and also publishing papers.
Interesting. We'll have to keep on top of that and watch what you guys are doing. Sounds fascinating. So, getting to the vaccine rollout, you're based in Europe. I'm in the U.S. A lot of our audience is U.S. based. What have you seen about any of the differences between how the vaccines being shipped and distributed and put in people's arms in Europe versus the United States so far?
I think there are not that many differences around the world. We have to put the whole story into a context, into the context that the world is burdened by a major pandemic that we have in record time produced vaccines, which some people believed could happen. I was more conservative and said that would not happen earlier than maybe mid-2021. So we had also not that much time to prepare. And the topic is extremely complex because we are talking supply chains which are partially exist and partially don't exist. A supply chain is made of a few elements. One is infrastructure. So infrastructure, if we take the cooling requirements of the vaccine, is a challenge. Doesn't exist in the quantities we needed. We have processes. If we look at centralized vaccination hubs and centers, we have to build them. We have to set up the entire process. And then come the IT infrastructure, the software, the platforms. Also there, we have not what is needed. So, and then we have the people. And just think about the thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s of volunteers that all need to be trained in that new topic and to fulfill the role. And this shows the complexity. And I'm saying that to illustrate that wherever in the world you are, in Singapore or in Paris or in Chicago, you will face the similar challenges to make that supply chain work.
Got it. So I wonder if there's any lessons learned, or, in the first couple of months of the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine being out there, and maybe the Chinese and Russian one as well. But, I think a lot of there were initial fears that there would be distribution and physical transportation problems. It seems like, at least so far, and it's very early, that the parcel shipping and the air cargo shipping and the delivery has been pretty smooth. But then you have problems, either with information technology or just getting it to the local sites and into people's arms. And so I'm just curious, about the information and the tracking of the vaccine down at the pharmacy level. What kind of problems are there that can be improved on?
Eric, you're touching on a number of things, and I would like to start with the biggest lesson learned. I think the biggest lesson learned is that we need more coordination and more focus on the distribution. The world, and rightly so, was first very much focused on getting the vaccine out and getting it certified. And but I think it was underestimated by a lot of people what it means to distribute it. And as you have said, the challenge is not in the transportation part of the story, because all the big companies, whether it's the UPSs, the FedExes, all players, the airlines, even the Amazons, if you think about that, they're also big logistics companies. So they are used to peaks. They are used to high volumes. We know that from Black Friday, Christmas, single day, etc. So the transportation side is a bit constrained because we have grounded 40% of the air cargo capacity, because that sits in the passenger side and the passenger planes. But in general, I think the pure transportation is not the real challenge. Where it becomes more challenging is in the whole health sector, what I said, in the hospitals, the doctors, the centers, the hubs, all what we need to build and provide to get, how you called it, the vaccine into people's arms, which means you have to expand the capacity for cold chain products. You have to increase the volume. You have to bring the people together. And there might be very simple things. If you set up a vaccination center, you need chairs, tables. It's not only about the medical side of it. So it's very, very complex. And I think that we will catch up with the situation, at least in the West. There are, of course, big differences between the global North and the global South. When we think about Latin America, when we think about Africa, when we think about different climates, heats, very different infrastructure. But that is not easy to fix. But that's what I think. Also on the parcel side, we have, I think, put some technology in there. We have put in the data logger, which is an old solid technology. I think we could use more real-time tracking, but I think that will work out itself.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that, tracking the vaccine to the pharmacy level, who gets what dose, the remaining shelf life. Those are all difficult data points to collect. And you advise a company, Roambee, that allows some kind of real-time assessment using cloud analytics and machine learning to recognize bottlenecks and make recommendations to optimize the process. Are any vaccine companies using that yet? And how would this type of technology be helpful?
At this point, the common technology is the data logger, which is a device you put as a package which register what happens during the journey. and then you download the data at the other end on the receiving end, and you see whether there were variances. Of course, that ensures that we don't use vaccines which have been exposed to unfavorable conditions. What it doesn't allow is to correct during the journey, because we don't know what happens during the journey. It's a black hole. But if you have real-time tracking and conditions become adverse, then you can take measures, and that can save the vaccine, and which is urgently needed, as we know, at the receiving end. And that maybe brings me to another point I wanted to make. We have, of course, to work very hard on expanding the capacity to produce enough vaccine. But that's a different story. But when we take the tracking of the shipments, I think that it's also important to point out that the data part of it and the platform part of it is very important. I mentioned before we have multiple parties. So we have the producers, we have the transportation companies, we have hospitals, vaccination centers. So all that needs to be coordinated. Most countries call the army in. So all that has to work in a synchronized way. So I'm thinking that we should invest in a kind of ERP system, enterprise resource planning system, one platform for the global vaccine distribution, whether it's one or two or three. I think that can be used for other purposes and for natural disasters, etc. as well. But that would help to create that transparency, which in fact takes the uncertainties and the fears slightly out of the equation, because we know exactly what are the quantities which are produced, what is in transit, what sits with the hospitals, what sits in some warehouses of the military, etc. And that transparency would give us a flexibility and a base to take much better decisions.
So building that type of an ERP system, it sounds like, I mean, isn't that almost too late now? We're already distributing the vaccine, and that probably takes a while. But on the other hand, it seems like you're saying we can build it now for this purpose, but then we can use it for future pandemics, other health distribution emergencies, natural disasters, in the way that, whenever there's a natural disaster, humanitarian organizations probably have, poor visibility into the logistics capabilities. Everyone's got silos and has access to some transportation or warehousing, but doesn't see the whole picture. And so this would be, in addition to FEMA, all the national emergency agencies around the world, they could all, populate this data platform, and everyone might have better visibility. So it sounds like a very interesting idea. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, and I don't think at all that we are late in the process. I believe that we are on a learning journey to deal with COVID-19. COVID-19 will probably stay with us for a while. It will take at least another 2, 3, if not 4 years to have the majority of the global population vaccinated. So I think there is enough good reason to build it, to pool some money somewhere, take initiative. There are very experienced parties on the globe in vaccine distribution, like UNICEF, distributing millions of vaccines every year. Yes, I believe that's a good basis. And we need more global coordination, because we need then also to ensure that this platform is populated, fed with data, that the manufacturers open their books, put their data on, and everybody who is involved in that now critical supply chain should be then obliged to register, so that we have that full picture.
So But the data side is, so you're saying the real-time information kind of goes beyond just having sensors in the shipments or sensors in the thermal coolers. It needs something extra to be real time.
The sensors give you real-time information, but I think it's a question of tapping into all available sources of information, whether it is ERP systems, the manufacturers have those, whether it is warehouse management systems, whether it is transport management systems, whether it is the systems which are used for hospitals and doctors. So all these information should be pulled together in that platform. And people are doing this. This is not something so revolutionary. And then the sensors are there to ensure this end-to-end visibility, either retroactive or in real time. And then the combination will give you an enormous amount of data. And there the next challenge starts, because we need very powerful analytics. There we talk about AI, machine learning, etc., to make sense out of that data, because we don't want to see the entire supply chain. We want to see what matters. Where is the deviation from the plan? Where are adverse conditions? Where are things just blocked? Where is high demand? Where are people not taking the vaccine? We know there is a lot of skepticism in the population around it. And some places might have too much, while others have too little stock.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned Amazon. Amazon, as far as I know, isn't intimately involved, but the way FedEx and UPS and DHL are, but could you see a role for them? I know they've offered the Biden administration to help out if they need it.
Clearly, I think that Amazon has state-of-the-art warehouse management capabilities, pick and pack, bringing such an innovative partner into the equation. Also in the data piece, might not be that Amazon develops the platform, but definitely can contribute with the knowledge. Also making sense out of data. I think it's very important to get a better understanding about the demand side. So what are the preferences in certain parts of the world, and this points towards who is more openness towards being vaccinated than in other parts. But definitely, and we should not forget that Amazon operates one of the larger cargo airlines in the world.
You know, you mentioned some of the production issues. So moving to the other end of the supply chain, the inbound to the pharmaceutical factories, you know, I think some of the drug makers have talked about some supply issues and production slowdowns to getting doses out. And some of that might be difficulties in getting certain ingredients and components to produce the drugs. So just wondering what you're seeing on that end, or any improvements on the inbound logistics side.
Of course, there is another major logistical or supply chain challenge, as you pointed out. These are new products with new ingredients. But another example is there are probably only 3-4 glass manufacturers in the world that can produce what is needed to ensure the proper packaging. So we have to deal with all those bottlenecks, and that also explains that it cannot be as smooth as people think. We have never in our history vaccinated the entire world in such a short time, or need to vaccinate the entire world population in such a short period of time. So it's there, the same let's say solutions, which means transparency, global collaboration. Where can I find it? But I think that most of the manufacturers are properly equipped. It just takes time sometimes to ramp up production.
Right. Are we going to have a protectionism or a trade war over these vaccines? You know, I know the EU's upset at AstraZeneca for not supplying them quick enough, or you know, and some of the countries have trying to get commitments from the drug makers. So, well, what kind of political fights are we going to have over a limited supply?
Yeah, I see that as well, and my view is that we should declare probably the vaccine and the vaccine supply chain as a kind of global common good, and give preferences wherever we can, and have the most inclusive approach to it. The reality is it's partially weaponized, politicized, so we should take a distance from that, and also understand what the UN also says. We are only safe when we are all safe, right? There is no wall which can hold back and the virus or stop the virus. So that's my position.
Great. Well, Wolfgang, I want to thank you so much for joining us here at FreightWaves for the show. Very interesting insights, and good luck with your work. And we hope to stay in touch. But we really enjoyed learning a little bit about the COVID vaccine supply chain issues.
Thank you for the invitation, Eric. Very good conversation.